Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tunnel Vision, a show brought to you by USCFootball.com. We're back. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Sorry.
Router issues and whatnot. But we're
Router
back.
issues. I saw a flag right here
Yeah.
for illegal contact. Kicking and screaming over here as always. John McEnroe just can't keep him calm. Kicking and screaming, hit the wrong button, press the stop button on us.
I did. Sorry.
Ryan.
So we were going to come back on YouTube and Periscope, but then I was trying to stop Periscope to really get it going again. I stopped YouTube, and that just kind of killed everything. So we had to start another stream. Sorry about that.
Yep. Oh, well.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
There you go. Spooky, scary stream for that. But I believe where we left off was what USC can do against a stout Oregon offensive line. Do you go with a speed option? You get Christian Rector back. What do you do there, Ryan?
So we already talked about that at the end of the show. What do you think?
I think getting Christian Rector back, if he's 100%, which this is what he told me yesterday. I asked him, how close are you to 100%? He just straight 100. He said it's the first time he's felt this good since the Stanford week, which is actually when he injured his ankle initially. He sat out the BYU game. He came back for a couple games. Probably should have sat him before that Notre Dame game, in my opinion. Just because it's a non-conference game, he had the bye week. He was feeling a little bit better coming off the bye. They decided to play him. It wasn't working. He didn't have the lateral mobility that he needs to have. But if he's back 100%, I think people kind of forget about how much he can create some havoc in the backfield. He had 38 combined pressures last season. People kind of forget about that. People remember the edge runs and where he struggled on like the reverse against Notre Dame. But if he's fully healthy, I think you see a different type of player. So I think with the power of their offensive line, especially with Penei Sewell at left tackle, getting him back would be clutch. On the other side, I think you can mix and match based on matchups. With Caleb Tremblay, he had a really good game in my opinion. He was, I think he was all Pac-12 with Pro Football Focus for his play on the line. Hunter Echols can give you some speed off the edge. Those two guys in particular can be. I would mix and match them at that one spot and see what they can do, kind of a combined effort. Nick Figueroa also did some nice things in that game. I would flip the matchups there because last game it was Hunter Echols and Elijah Winston kind of paired together, as a duo when Hunter Echols would come out, Winston would go in, and it was Figueroa backing up Caleb Tremblay. I think I would flip Figueroa behind Rector and then have Tremblay and Echols kind of do a 50-50 split, kind of based on what you need in there at the time. Now, when they go to their pass rush unit, you'll likely see Tremblay move inside and then get some more speed on the edges there.
Or like Drake Jackson would do sometimes.
Yeah, so I think that's something that you got to look for. I think they have some options there. Getting Rector back definitely helps, I think. But I think it's going to be up to the middle linebackers. I think it's going to be up to them to have a big game. What Notre Dame did is we're going to double team those two tackles, and we're going to force someone else to make plays. And USC struggle with it. So I think that, since that game, though, John Houston's been the top-rated, linebacker in the Pac-12 as far as Pro Football Focus. I think he has 7 solo tackles against Colorado. Now, there were still missed tackles on the entire team. I counted 21 missed tackles when I went back and watched.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and there was 3 each by both the inside linebackers. They've got to do a better job. The safeties have to do a better job. It's going to be a team effort, especially when you have a team that's really good at running the ball. You have to have a good team effort tackling, getting to the ball to get at the same time. And, if they're trying to take out that defensive line because Jay Tufele, Marlon Tuipulotu, and Brandon Peely have been really, really good this season, then it's going to be guys behind them that have to step up and make some plays.
Well, USC might get a boost there. I talked to Palier Naotote yesterday. It was interesting. He came out and warmed up with the team, but without pads. So it looked like we've seen Jordan Isefa do that, so I didn't read too much into it. And then when we came back in after the media was ushered out and back in, he had his shoulder pads and helmet with him. So I kind of interrogated him a little bit. I was like, how much did you do? What's it look like for Oregon? And he was like, well, that's a coach question. But he was like, I was able to do some stuff. I was able to be with my teammates. So it looks like he said he feels good. He's practicing as far as we know. We don't know how much USC will get out of him. But what does he present? What kind of boost does he give USC's defense just in terms of physicality alone if you have EA back out there?
Yeah. I mean, he's a big dude. It's a big, powerful, strong Oregon offensive line. So I think having someone like that will certainly help. I think he's got to make sure he's taking the right angles, getting to the football. But he's like, I agree with Shotgun. They're going to need him and John Houston, Kanai Mauga, all those guys to come in and really support, especially if they are going to be able to double team some of the USC defensive tackles, I think it's going to be big for them to come in and be able to swarm to the ball. Don't let CJ Verdell get going in that second level and then break some tackles and go for big runs. I mean, they ran for over 300 yards against Washington State. You can't let that happen if you're USC.
Yeah. Just want to jump in and say we're at a noon tunnel vision just because it's Halloween. We want to make sure we get you an early preview, and so you can enjoy your Halloween.
Yeah.
And also, if you didn't know it was Halloween based on the way we're dressed, but
yes.
Some people were confused about the timing. That's why we're on earlier today.
Sorry about that. So you can go trick-or-treating with your kids or yourself or whatever. And
trick-or-treating with yourself. Yeah. For sure.
It's mostly because Ryan wanted to go trick-or-treating.
I wanted to go trick-or-treating.
He has a sweet tooth, in case you guys
I
don't
do.
know.
A big little kid.
When we had our little break, I got to eat some M&Ms, so that was one positive thing.
True. That's very true. I guess on the whole, what else are you looking at as far as matchups in this Oregon game?
I mean, I think, we've seen some of the guys in the Oregon secondary before, like a Thomas Graham, was a longtime USC committee. He's been starting there for 3 years. But what are they going to do as far as trying to defend USC's wide receivers? And are they going to, drop 8 and, rush 3 sort of thing? I mean, I think they get after the quarterback pretty well, like we talked about before. But yeah, I want to see certainly how USC handles Oregon's offensive line. Don't let them dictate the game. But what does Oregon do against USC's strength, which is the wide receiver core?
Yeah, and that wide receiver core, if you've watched the last couple of weeks, they've started moving Michael Pittman around a little bit more. In that 5 wide, he was never the outside guy, or rarely was the outside guy. He was usually a slot guy, and having him on the same side as Tyler Vaughns, that just puts a lot of stress, especially if you can get a matchup you really like. If there's a side that there's a young guy playing, if Michael Wright gets in there in the game, if you can attack the young guys, I think that's something you look at. One of the things I look at is, you touched on it briefly earlier before we were cut off, but I had counted 46 guys on Oregon's
46?
team,
Okay,
team
maybe I
from
got
California.
it wrong, yeah.
There's only 19 from Oregon. So this is a big homecoming game for them. And guys that feel like they were overlooked by USC, the Thomas Grahams, who was committed, and then coaching staff changed. Ronnie Bradford and Clancy Pendergrass wanted taller, longer cornerbacks, and he just was dropped off on the wayside. Diamador Lenore, another guy. And those guys have went and played for 3 years there, and been starters and have been very productive at Oregon. So they're going to want to come back, and especially because they know this is their only chance. In 4 years, when you're playing a team from the opposite division, you get one chance to go to LA or one chance to go to USC.
Yeah.
And this is the school a lot of those LA kids wanted to go to growing up. So this is a big homecoming, but it's a big game for them. They're going to want to try to do something. Do they try to do too much? That's always a question. Do you live up? Do you get hyped up extra and you play really well, or do you try to do too much and you put extra pressure on yourself to play in front of family and friends type of thing?
Yeah.
That's always a thing. And if it gets into a back and forth scoring match, can USC have some consistency on the offensive side? They moved the ball really well against Colorado when they were going well.
Yeah.
But then when they weren't, 3 and outs.
Yeah, they had pick, 3 and out. And
in the second half, they had a couple 3 and outs too. They kind of get overlooked, kind of glossed over. But they were, that fourth quarter, give a lot of credit to the defense because they entered the fourth quarter down 10 points. Colorado had the ball. Colorado was gashing them in the run game, which is why their play calling, again, was atrocious.
It was bad.
And USC gave the ball back to them, I think, twice on offense. And their defense got it back for them both times. And, they scored the Pittman touchdown, but I think there was a drive right after that they, had, a short drive. So, they haven't been consistent with the offense. And there's some positive things in that offense every single game, but can they put it all together?
Yeah.
And if they can probably beat anybody in the country.
Yeah.
Even the Clemsons and Alabamas, if they put it all together. And that's the problem is they haven't done that since the Penn State game, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's on the offensive side. They put it all together. They didn't really put it all together on the defense side.
No, they give up 7 straight touchdowns in that game. But
really, the last time they put an entire game together was what, at Washington? The upset there.
Yeah,
I would say that was
good.
probably a pretty complete game.
Defensive performance. I think the big concern too is you see how did USC score? I mean, there were so many explosive plays, and that the long touchdown to Pittman catching the short one and running, and diving for the. I mean, are you going to get that against Oregon? That Colorado is one of the worst secondaries in the country, not just the conference. So, that's what I get a little concerned when you start relying on the explosive plays. You love explosive plays, but you want to be able to see like consistent drives and get you a bunch of first downs and stuff. I'd feel better if USC did that better against Colorado going into this one.
Now, you mentioned the Washington game, Shotgun. It's interesting because Clay Helton has kind of made comparisons to this season, to the 2016 season. And would you say that this could be the Washington game, if you will, if USC comes out and plays well and beats a top 10 ranked team?
I mean, sure. I think that there are pieces there for USC. Obviously, there's plenty of talent on the team, and they've shown signs that they can do some really nice things. Can you put it together, though? I think that team with Sam Darnold, you had a lot more confidence going forward that they were putting things together rather than it being, maybe.
Yeah.
It felt like, there was confidence when USC went on the road to Washington. Like, if they play well, because they've been playing well. Whereas they're coming off of a come-from-behind win at Colorado. Yeah. Now, granted, it was their first road win. There's a lot of things that were going against them Friday night, all those things, but they didn't play great. They didn't tackle well. Those type things are things that you saw going forward in that 2016 season rather than this season.
Yeah. And I think, it's a good analogy just because back in 2016, you had to make a run after starting poorly, and they needed to go undefeated to make the Rose Bowl, and that's what they were able to do. The biggest game on the schedule was the road one against Washington. I think it's the same time here where there's some tough games, but the big one's going to be it's a home game against Oregon, and if you can beat that one, there's some other teams around them that aren't as strong. You can do that. USC probably going to have to run the table to make the Rose Bowl, even though they control their own destiny. I don't see Utah losing again. Now they could. But I think USC would have to run it again, and you got to beat Oregon to do that.
And USC will probably know whether they need to run the table by the time the game is kicked off. Because Utah and Washington play early.
Right. So that's the main Fox game is Utah-Washington, and then the second Fox game is USC-Oregon. So like the Gus Johnson, Joel Klatz are doing
Taft.
Yeah, Jenny Taft. So they're doing the USC one, right? And then Bruce Feldman and his crew, they're doing the Utah game, the Utah-Washington game.
Makes sense. Now, like I said, it's going to be USC to control their destiny has to win against Oregon. What's the conversation like if USC somehow doesn't beat Oregon? Do you look? What do you think Clay Helton? Where does he go to now? Just because he's always put himself in this corner of it's Pac-12 championship or bust.
Well, it depends. So there's two teams now in the South that control their own destiny. UCLA does also as well. Yeah. UCLA plays Colorado at home. So if UCLA wins and USC loses, then USC wouldn't control. I believe USC wouldn't control their own destiny anymore because UCLA would have that. I don't believe. But it depends on what Utah does, or maybe USC still would because if USC beats UCLA, I don't know. It's all kind of confusing, but. If Utah wins, that's the main one to me. If Utah wins and USC loses, then what is the narrative? Because now you need help. The schedule's not as difficult, going forward. If Cal gets Chase Garbers back, they might be a different team, but they've looked awful lately. UCLA, those looked, a lot better. They've been playing a lot better. If they get a win over Colorado, you got to worry about winning that game again. That's a team that just looked like crap in the beginning of the season, and then at the end of the year last year, looked a lot better, beat USC. They're looking a lot better earlier this year after, just awful. But the big one is Utah. If Utah wins and USC loses, you can't realistically feel like you can win the Pac-12. Utah could lose and USC could win out, but it seems a lot less likely. This is the best, chance for Utah to lose, and that would give USC a little wiggle room. So if Utah loses and USC loses, then it's okay. If Utah wins and USC loses, I don't know where you go from there.
And Utah is on the road playing at Seattle this weekend, so it's tough to win in the Pac-12 on the road.
Yeah,
true, very true. We have some live callers. Did you just hit yourself?
I hit my
unsportsmanlike conduct on yourself. Unnecessary roughness.
This isn't square. Like, what? Do you know what? This is not a legal flag.
Yeah, it is.
Nice try. It's A for effort on the costume. Also, that's duct tape. That's white duct tape on Shotgun's shirt. So A+. That's
effort. Pretty amazing. Your wife did a good job.
Well done. Well done.
Because I know you wouldn't have got it to look like that.
I can't see it, so what does it matter?
True.
Well, let's go to our first live caller. Hello, you are live on Tunnel Vision.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I wanted to first compliment you on your company and what you guys have done there. Your staff is amazing, and the content that you guys constantly put out is far and above what anybody else does. And I just wanted to say, as a caller, you really have got it together.
Thanks so
Today,
much.
I didn't
That's
want
great.
to talk about Thank you, sir. I didn't want to talk about the Oregon game. What I want to talk about before it gets crazy is the coach and the search for the new coach. You have your list of things that you want to do, and my list is you're hiring a new coach. Is it Pete Carroll? Is it Nick Saban? Is it Lincoln Riley? And if they don't level up to that person, just like your staff, you're not going to hire somebody that doesn't have the potential or is that type of a person. And the person I want you to do, because you have a lot of connections with Fox and Colin and a lot of different people. He coaches for Minnesota. He's PJ Fleck. And if you could get him to become the next coach for USC, you have a national championship within a year or two. And I just wanted to say this on the day when all your cameras went wrong and everything went crazy. I wanted to reach you before it hits peak coach talk. Yeah. Today's the day. PJ Fleck. He really is it. He played in the NFL. He played for the 49ers. What he's done for coaching, and if you look at his actual record, it's phenomenal what he does and turns things around. And if he came to USC with the players and just being USC, you're going to repeat what Pete did. Pete had 6-6 his first year and then took us to 33 games in a row. PJ is going to do the same thing. So I just wanted to say that. I'll sign off. Again, congratulations on the company you've built and the staff you've put together. But please, with the people and the connections you have, please look at PJ Fleck.
All right. Thanks
so much.
I got a flag on the caller.
Wait, he's a great caller. He's complimenting us.
There's no job opening, so
there is not a job opening, and we do not have poll about like what we could. We have no polls.
Coach search talk.
Yeah, well, it was real.
15-yard penalty.
I mean, but that's what everyone's talking about. There is no opening right now. I like the name. I mean, Minnesota's 8-0. Yep. You know, if USC does have an opening at some point, we're getting towards the end of the season. I mean, that's certainly a name you would have to consider. I mean, he's doing a great job there at Minnesota. 8-0 is kind of crazy. The main thing is, and you got to get an athletic director in there, and I think we're getting close to that. Having someone from outside for both athletic director and coaching that has an outside perspective, that has their own system, that has everything in place that you need to do. Everyone that's come into USC in leadership positions have just been learning from what was already happening at USC, and you know that's a mess. So if you're the athletic director, what they've avoided desperately is not to bring in an experienced athletic director to change everything. That's what you have to do now. So bring in someone from the outside. I mean, if as long as it's someone that's good, it doesn't matter. He, she, whatever. Brings in, they have their own system. They look around and go, this is all insane. Stop doing all these things, and we're going to do it this way. You need that. And also on the coaching side, not someone that's going to keep things rolling, that learned from the previous coach. And like, bring in someone from the outside. They have their own system. Like Nick Saban has his own system. And Urban Meyer has his own system. PJ Fleck has their own system. James Franklin. They have their own systems. They bring them in, and this is how you win their way. And I think you have to do that and still, and they'll know what to do. Just let them, have the people in place to let them do that.
Yeah, I felt a few years ago that PJ Fleck was a star in the making, and it's only been reinforced by what he's done at Minnesota and the possibility of having game day go there for the first time next week.
Yeah.
When they're likely to have an undefeated matchup against Penn State.
Yeah, he was the row your boat guy, right?
Yeah. I also love the way he pitched it. Like, he went on a whole rant about why game day should come to Minnesota. Like, I love that he's willing to put himself out there with things like that. So, if you end up having a coaching search, that's a guy that I would definitely look at for not just USC, any school, just because I think he's done a phenomenal job there.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for the call, David.
But there's no.
But he's complimenting us.
Opening.
He's complimenting
Someone
us.
Someone said, Ryan, stop having your family members call into the show.
I know. Uncle, what was his name? It was like
David.
Uncle David. Thanks.
Thanks, Uncle.
I had an Uncle David.
Oh, interesting. It's Halloween, and what better caller to have on Halloween?
Oh no.
than Jeremiah from Snake Lake. So let's go to him. Hello, you're live on television.
Jeremiah from Snake Lake. Boy, I am as pissed as an Irishman on St. Patty's. David, the caller before me, you want to talk about teeing up a softball. Holy Christ. This is crazy. He complimented you on running the company and putting your staff together. That's ironically the opposite of what I want to talk about. First off, I love everybody's dedication. I know for a fact none of you have children. What the hell are we doing? I'm supposed to be at the factory, y'all. It's like 7 p.m. tonight. Can we get together? I got something. Yeah, I know. Y'all got something. God damn it, this is a business. This is why we don't do the Super Bowl at 11 a.m. Steve Jobs did not roll the iPhone out at 11 a.m.
True.
Or
Fair.
the snake skinning championships at 11 a.m. Now, Keely, what the hell are you wearing? Who are you?
I'm Wendy Peppercorn from The Sandlot.
She was the
What?
Sand.
Christ, nobody knows that reference. Jesus.
It's a flag on you, Jeremiah,
Yeah.
for not
Everyone
knowing the
knows The
Sandlot.
Sandlot.
Everyone, the Sandlot's great.
Thank you very much. Well, I tell you what, though, as long as it ain't a cat, boy, you women love to dress up like cats, just like men like to do Southern accents. It's the craziest thing. And Ryan,
And poorly.
what the hell, man? What is Rose Bowl? Rose Bowl? Were you talking about the Rose Bowl? We ain't going to no Rose Bowl. Rose Bowl? What the hell? I called in
Say
because
Rose Bowl
Keely
again.
last week said everybody was clamoring for me to call in. Now, it took me an hour and a half to look up clamoring because, y'all, it don't start with a K. But here I am, and I'm here to say that y'all need to get your shit together, just like this team, and y'all get on my case because I don't
Is there a
ask
question?
Well, here's my question. There's my question. My question is this. Shotgun is the only straight shooter in that whole outfit. He probably will be there at 7 o'clock tonight doing his own solo if you let him. How's the offensive line? And get specific. And the rest of you, I'm damn disappointed. Jeremiah from Snake Lake, the hell out of here.
All right. Bye,
Thank
Jeremiah.
you, Jeremiah.
Always a pleasure to see you hang up. It's great. I'm just kidding.
Oh, boy.
So talking about the offensive line, are we talking about USC's offensive line or Oregon's
I
offensive
think
line?
so. I think he's talking about USC's
You wanted
offensive line.
specifics about the offensive line.
So the offensive line, struggled with some blitzes off the edge, and it was something unique that Colorado had brought, which were corner blitzes where they were trying to widen out the tackle with a defensive end. So the defensive end would go way upfield, and whoever the tackle was would go with them. And then it was opening up some areas, the defense tackle or an outside linebacker, open up some areas for a big gap for the front side cornerback, usually the short corner, and into Keaton Slovis's face. So he was seeing the pressure coming from him, and it was making him, get a little jumpy early is what their attempt was. And they did some other things. They did some, Graham Harrell actually gave the offensive line credit for, and Brett Nealon a lot of credit for the way he picked up and identified a lot of the blitzes. But they were overloading certain sides, so that's something I would look for from Oregon as well to try to overload.
Corner blitzes. I feel like corner blitzes really something that USC can't pick up well.
Yeah, they struggle with that, and they were just bringing too many guys. There were times when one of the first sack was when Drew Richmond was still in the game. They had basically 6 guys lined up across the line of scrimmage. 2 guys on each side that were standing up. You had 2 defensive tackles in the middle. Well, they dropped 2 guys out of one side. USC had shifted their protection to that side, and so it left 2 rushers coming in on one side. Drew Richmond picks up a guy going inside. Keenan Kristen picks up the guy going outside. But that's when the corner came, and that was the free runner there, and that was the guy that ended up getting the sack. And, it was a tough block for Drew Richmond going inside as well. So they did some unique things there, and USC kind of grew through it. Liam Jimmons was in there most of the night. Drew Richmond only played the three drives, the second, third, and fourth drives, which were really unsuccessful. It was basically USC gained, I think it was 7.9 or 8.9 yards per play when Liam Jimmons was in there, and only like 4 yards per play when Drew Richmond was in there.
Yeah.
Now, Clay Helton said he wasn't feeling well and that he was being affected by the altitude and stuff. So, all that stuff played into it. But when they went to Liam Jimmons and kind of let him take over and move Jalen McKenzie out, they did some different things. They got into their groove a little bit more, I think. But they're still a work in progress. I still think Drew Richmond's a much better lineup there with him in at right tackle than having Jalen McKenzie at right tackle. So getting him back will help them this week, I think, and help them maybe pick up some of those blitzes a little bit better. But we'll look for that. When USC's on the right hash, watch the corners and see if they try to blitz a little bit there with Oregon.
Yeah. I talked to Jalen McKenzie a little bit too. When they go 5 wide, he knows that things are going to happen quicker. There's going to be hot stuff happening, so they might bring more pressure. So it was a little bit different, I think, protection in the first half versus the second when Shotgun said they weren't running any more of the 5 wide stuff. But then you have to work with the quarterback and make sure the quarterback, if someone's blitzing, you're going to try to throw to where the area that's been opened up. So they kind of have to work together. But it got a little different when they were running the 5 wide stuff.
And give Colorado credit because Mel Tucker, being a defensive mind, knows that there's 2 young, inexperienced running backs in the backfield, so he was putting pressure, doing different things and trying to make those guys be able to make the right read to where they were blocking. And Keenan Christon did a pretty good job. He wasn't perfect by any means, but he did a pretty good job of picking up some of the blitzes. And I think that's why as I said earlier, that they went with more 4 wides instead of 5 wides in that second half, is because he started gaining more and more trust that he could pick up the blitzes and do different things. They also, one other thing they did with the running backs is besides just the swing passes, which they've done kind of all season as an option, they did some different things for him to be checkdowns. Keenan Christon was in the middle of the field sometimes. I saw Quincy Junty, Corber's little brother, Quincy Junty go on a wheel route up the sideline. So, maybe there could be some things that you see in this game that maybe they try to attack with the running backs a little bit more.
Yeah, I think an underrated thing about USC's offensive production in that game against Colorado is that was the most playing time that Liam Jimmons got as an offensive lineman, because even when Drew Richmond went out against the Fresno State game, Andrew Voorhees was still healthy. So you had Andrew Voorhees there and then Jalen McKenzie. So that is someone who hasn't played offensive line and was a defensive lineman. So that does affect, picking up blitzes and whatnot. You saw that affect USC's offensive line sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see what the offensive line looks like with Drew Richmond back healthy. But
Liam Jimmons' previous high for snap count was 37 snaps. He played 72 in this game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big
so
time.
Exactly. Let's go into questions. I think we're solo YouTube questions now.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Facebook people.
Yeah.
We'll post these up. There's going to be basically like a 2-part. This will end up being 2 parts.
Yeah.
So we'll upload the second part to Facebook if you're a Facebook fan.
Yep. Let's go to Eric on YouTube, who says, why isn't Velus getting looks in the backfield with his speed? Seems like a guy who is growing unhappy and will be gone before next year.
He did enter the transfer portal once, so that is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
There is no limit on how many times you can enter the transfer portal, just how many times you can transfer and still have eligibility left. Since he didn't do that, he could do that. So I think that he's an option for them at running back, especially if they don't want Amon-Ra St. Brown to take some hits. And that was the reason why he went in the backfield, Graham Harrells said, was basically so they could still run the ball out of the 5 wide, because they don't want Keaton running the ball, but they can motion him into the backfield and still run the ball. And they kept the personnel. That was the thing about the 5 wide, those 2 drives, is they kept the 5 wides on the field over and over and over. There wasn't switching out, so maybe you go to it and you see that they're in a personnel that doesn't match up with it great. And you go, okay, keep going. And those drives, both of those were very fluid drives. They just continued to work the ball down the field. And give Amon-Ra St. Brown credit. He showed that he said, I think he played running back until he was a sophomore in high school. Keely, is that correct?
Yes, that's what he said.
Yeah, so he showed that he has vision in the backfield and that he can take a hit, keep on ticking, because the guy that
broke a tackle. Yeah,
the guy that hit him on that was Nate Landman, who is 3rd in the nation in solo tackles coming in, and was top 10 in the nation in tackles per game. So that's a guy that normally Colorado,
you're not breaking his tackle.
Colorado is looking for, like, okay, we got a one-on-one matchup. That guy's going to make the tackle. Instead, he breaks it and he's gone.
Yeah,
he gone.
Shotgun, we had a comment that you're not an accurate Pac-12 ref because you're looking in the right direction too much.
Oh, I was looking at Keely the whole time. That's what I thought.
No. We have.
I saw there was a lifeguard and she's got a whistle. I was just craving the whistle. That could.
There you go.
We have
make some
props,
stoppages of
we
play.
really came prepared with the props and whatnot.
Yeah.
Trek Ranger says, does Harrell or Slovis have the patience to take underneath routes? They missed a lot of underneath open running backs or wide receivers to throw deep.
I think that's something Washington State did a really good job of. So I think that's there. If you want to do that a little bit more, I think USC could have some success if they want to do it.
But did they throw deep and they missed a lot of throws? No. They completed stuff. So, like, you look at maybe even the first play of the game, Michael Pittman comes off and he's in the slot. He comes off and there's a little bit of press on him, and he comes inside of it and it opens up. Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown is running open underneath, But he throws it to Michael Pittman because he's at 13 yards down the field, and then he runs and picks up another, I don't know, whatever. But he could have thrown the short route.
Yeah.
But if the throw is open, then yeah. I think when they were throwing the ball and it looked like it was, just not a good – there was a couple times where he threw the ball quickly to Tyler Vaughn. That's because there was pressure coming in his face. So that was something – now maybe he can do a better job of hitting the hot routes short on some of those pressure throws, on some of those blitzes and stuff. But I thought that when he scrambles out and he's looking downfield, he was finding options that are farther down the field, even if he had shorter routes open. And I think that's one of the things that Slovis does well. I don't think he forces those throws too much. I just think that he is willing to wait and see if something opens up farther down the field, and then if not, then he'll check down.
We have a question from Herman, who says, do you think this Oregon game is the biggest game for head coach Clay Helton? Possible signature win after Penn State win in the Rose Bowl? Before you answer, YouTube, it's on you guys. If you have questions, put them in because we have no other streams up right now. So it's
Periscope's up. We have a couple.
Oh, and Periscope too, but Ryan never checks it.
I'm checking it right now.
Well done. If you have a burning question,
Wendy Peppercorn, you can't be serious.
Yeah, but do you think this could be a signature win for Clay Helton?
I think the biggest game was still Utah. Part of the reason having Urban Meyer in the building at the time was just a really big deal. And that's a big one. I mean, Utah looks really good right now. If USC didn't beat Utah, they're in the top 5 and people are talking about them as a potential playoff team. So that's a big one. But now going forward, I keep hitting myself in the thing. Flag on me. There you go. Not you, Keely. You can't throw a Wendy Peppercorn.
I can do whatever.
No, it's huge, but I still think the Utah one was the big one. That if you're not, this game doesn't mean as much if you lose to Utah. So I think you had to beat Utah.
Yeah.
Hey, when you're in the hot seat, the next game is the biggest game.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
It's very big. Can I badminton this? Yay.
Well done. Ryan, you mentioned Periscope.
Oh, yeah. So let's go there. So Twiggy Dig, Keely promised to dress as Dan. Super disappointed.
Sorry, I know. I didn't want to offend Dan, but I thought about it.
Yeah, HBSTU, how did you get glasses refs on?
We have some pull here on television.
Just jumped on. This is from AV3651. Any update?
I heard people say my name, so I figured I should make an appearance. If there's flags needed, I'll be there.
Any update on Drake Jackson and Stephen Carr? We did talk about in the first segment. So both those guys look out. Do we know they're out? They're just probably going to be out.
They're probably going to be out.
Yeah.
Shotgun Brian on YouTube wants to know what the deal is with the punting game.
The punting game was really good this past week, but it was also at altitude, so that helps.
Yeah.
I think that Ben Griffiths is coming into his own. I've talked with John Baxter previously. He said they didn't change anything because I thought that maybe they became a little bit more aggressive during that Washington game. He said, he's just kind of getting into the rhythm a little bit more, I think, of different fields and different crowds, crowd being on top of you a little bit more, just different things like that. Even though he's an older guy and has, professional experience in Australia, it's still a different environment, being on campus with people and, just the hoopla of college football. So I think he's coming to his own a bit. I think what he's doing really well is when they're angling the ball, he's, putting it on the money as far as putting it right on the sideline and stuff like that. So he's doing some positive things there. And one of the things, though, is you've been able to see his leg a little bit more because USC's drives aren't stalling at the 50-yard line. They're either moving the ball really well or not moving it at all. It's been boom or bust recently.
Yeah.
So I think that's contributed to being able to see his leg a little bit more. So that's not necessarily a good thing. It's probably better for all your drives to either be boom or then stall at the 50, instead of being a complete bust and 3 and outs. Trek asked how many 3 and outs there were. I'll look that up in a second. But that's something that is becoming a concern is it's looking more like last season but it's not necessarily that it's one play. They are having explosive plays, but they're moving the ball at times as well. I mean, that last drive was a terrific drive, even though there were, a couple of potential disaster plays in there. And Graham Harrell gave a lot of credit to Keaton Slovis. The 2nd and 20 throw to Drake London was special. And that's something he said that he's developed, is learning that if that linebacker's back is to you, if you're the quarterback looking forward, and your receiver goes and the linebacker can't see you, then your receiver is open. because he can't defend what he can't see.
Yeah.
So what he did is all he did was throw the ball to the inside of that linebacker, and Drake London made a nice adjustment on it, and made the catch. That was a special play from two freshmen.
Sorry about that. I thought that was a really interesting point from Graham Harrell because he said that look was open against Notre Dame, and he said that's something that Keaton shied away from. Yeah. And he said in high school that's something that if Keaton throws that's a bad decision just because of the talent he was playing with at his high school. But he said at this level that's something that's a throw you can make, and so he said he specifically pointing to that play not only for the great throw that Keaton made, but his progression of taking that risk, taking that play, whereas he didn't against Notre Dame. So I thought that was interesting.
Graham Harrell's funny because it's like I love I think he's pretty candid about stuff, but he's very nonchalant about things too. It's more about like it's not like some scientific approach where you're like, he's got a protractor and he's like measuring out angles. He's like, yeah, that receiver's real good. So like I would throw it to him. Like there's really kind of stuff like that. Like he tries to make it very simple. Where he's not trying to make this like this isn't rocket science. He's like I'm a quarterback. I want to get a football to some speedy guys down the field somewhere, and that's what you got to do.
And he's like Drake's really big and he's hard for inside defenders to guard basically. So we're gonna throw it to him. Yeah. I know some people were what was it 3 weeks ago when people were like, why are we ever throwing the ball to Drake London? I think you're seeing the progression of Drake London, his confidence growing, and him being able to make plays like that are special. And he made some guys miss as well after the catches. So he had 80 yards or so. So he had a pretty big game as well.
Career night for him, yeah. And I talked to him this week, and he said the game's really slowed down for him. I think he's finally at a point where he has enough games under his belt as a true freshman that he feels confident and comfortable in the offense. We had a question from Potoa on YouTube who says, what's the status on Pallier? Right now, we will hear from Clay Helton at 6 today, but of course we're doing an earlier stream. But so far, we saw Pallier practice a little bit yesterday, but it's still TBD. But it looks like USC will probably get something out of him on Saturday.
Looks
Ryan,
good.
I thought you were.
No, someone wants to know if I'm John McEnroe. Yes, I'm John McEnroe. You can't be serious. Bruins Ball wants us to talk about Urban Meyer and the AD search. We'll see what the athletic director search. We heard from Dave Roberts this week on Trojans Live. He kind of gave two scenarios, one where they're going to find someone quick or one where they're going to take a longer time. I feel it's going to be more on the quick side. Check back in the war room. We'll probably have some more information for you on tomorrow morning. Urban Meyer, that's the big name out there. But the caller said, there's some really good coaches out there. If you have to hire a legitimate, established coach if there's going to be, a new coach coming in, and I think that's what you have to do. The biggest one out there is Urban Meyer. The one that will turn it around fastest is Urban Meyer, but I don't know. I mean, I still think that's kind of a long shot to happen if there's an opening.
We have a question from Christian who says Colin Cowherd says Oregon is overrated and USC will win this game. Do you guys agree that they are overrated?
I think Barstool SC, he said 38-33 Trojans, book it. No, I mean, USC could easily win this game. We've seen Oregon, they were in two tight games, their last two games, playing some talented teams. They're going to be on the road. They're not the same kind of team on the road. The thing I would worry about is that you can kind of take the wind out of another team's sails when you can just run the football. And if they can kind of pound the ball against USC, with that offensive line, I think that's going to put USC in a tough spot. But yeah, I mean, if USC wins this game, I'm not going to be shocked. But I think Oregon's a favorite for it's like a 5-point favor or something for a reason.
I think this game might just come down to tackling, which does not lend itself well to the way USC has played, the last couple weeks necessarily, or at least last week. I thought after the Washington game, they looked much better, but it hasn't necessarily been something they've grown on week by week. So. That would probably make you, hold your breath if you're a USC fan, because we've seen when there's shootouts in the Coliseum with Oregon. I remember the 62-51 game, and just no one could stop anyone. It was the loudest I've heard the Coliseum personally, but there was also a point in the third quarter where the fans just went, "We're never going to catch up." It was you could feel like there was an audible kind of because every time that USC would score, Oregon answered right back. So I think that if you don't tackle, this game could turn into that. So we'll see who tackles better this game.
Yeah, and this isn't that kind of Oregon team. This is more of a power. This isn't like the blur Oregon team. This is a different offense.
And in that sense of tackling, Alan says, question for Shotgun in particular, did you have a chance to watch the Wazoo-Oregon tape? Seems like Wazoo made a lot of open field tackles and had good form. I'm worried USC can't replicate that.
I've not watched. I know Ryan watched it.
Yeah,
Probably.
no, I thought they tackled
it.
pretty well. I mean, I thought Washington State did a pretty good job, and but they gave up a lot of rushing yards, but it wasn't. The game didn't get away from them, and Washington State sort of stopped themselves on offense quite a bit. And I mean, they had some weird plays. It basically should have been a touchdown play. Anthony Gordon throws it. I forget the receiver, like one of his best receivers. It like hits him in the hands, bounces out, and it's intercepted. So it was like things like that were happening, and you're like, but Washington State, that's the best I've seen them on offense all year. They moved the ball really well, and they probably should have had more points than they did against Oregon.
Better than the UCLA game? 65-63?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you get collapsed like that, too, like, that's tough.
Sorry, Ryan.
No, that's fine, yeah.
People don't know who I am. I'm Wendy Peppercorn from Sandlot. This is what she looks like. Go see the movie. Great movie. Anthony says, would you like to see Stephen Carr in the slot position or Keenan?
I would definitely rather see Stephen Carr.
Yeah, Stephen Carr's so good catching the ball, if he's healthy,
He can run routes like a wide receiver.
I'm just going straight into rapid fire. SoCal Trojan says, do you feel if USC loses this game, it will for sure be Clay's last season here at USC?
Yeah.
No?
I feel pretty confident.
Okay.
Chris says, looking ahead, who is scarier, ASU or UCLA?
UCLA. Just
Really?
ASU's trending down, UCLA's trending up. So
ASU on the road.
yeah, it's on the road, but that offensive line is pretty young.
Roy Hemsley.
Yeah, Roy Hemsley's there.
He's playing tackle for them.
Jaden, I mean, Benjamin, he can, and Jaden Daniels playing well, but they're just not. They haven't been as buttoned up as I've seen in the early part of the season. And UCLA looks like they're playing real big boy football, like pounding the football, and their defense is playing better.
UCLA is playing much better, but flag USC going on the road. Come on.
USC going on the road? Why they've won one in a row on the road.
Ooh.
One in a row.
It was the first one in like 14 months.
It's been a while.
Yep. Matt has an interesting question. He says, with a team as up and down and unpredictable as USC has been in the last 3 years, does it get hard to cover them as a reporter? Do you get frustrated or annoyed as much as we do?
I mean, for different reasons. Like there's, I think you see so much potential. You get to know the players. You don't want to see them like struggling the way that they are. I hate seeing the fans like being apathetic and like, I followed this team for 50 years and I skipped watching the game for the first time since my grandkid was born. Like people say stuff like that and you don't want to see that. And they're very frustrated and you can't blame them and it sucks. It's always interesting for us. There's always storylines, but usually they're bad. Usually there's some stupid things that happen that we have to cover. So it definitely would be much more fun to cover a team that's like fighting, vying for a championship. It's okay. I mean, business is fine or whatever. It's, we got all these stuff to write about, but it's not usually that fun, I guess.
Yeah.
It just depends because it can be really fun storylines out of negative stuff too.
Yeah.
But
Sure, but
I would say that typically more people are going to read my stuff and pay attention to it when the team is doing well because they want to hear about positive things. I let people read my stuff because I'm egotistical.
He is.
And because
Yeah.
I'm a
We can
Pac-12 ref,
we can verify.
I'm just throwing flags on this program for not being great when they
True.
should be.
yeah, I mean, it's hard when the fans are frustrated and sometimes they think we're a conduit. So like they get mad at us.
Yeah,
It's
like-
like I don't know. So it's when everyone's winning, everything's a little bit happier and easier.
Yeah,
so
but
that's
to be fair, like sometimes if you listen to our podcasts, if you look which ones are doing the best, it's like after a big loss or
Yeah.
something, more people tune in because they're upset and they want to see what's going on. But just in general, yeah, I mean, you like the players you cover, like we've covered them since high school. Like you
Yeah.
get to know these guys. You don't want to see them like
No.
moping around the sideline, struggling, not getting great coaching and things like that. So, and you don't want to see a university like USC just go out and keep making these weird hires that no one else at that level would make. And you're just, it's like not having great generals and it kind of all of the soldiers underneath suffer. So you want to have those great generals so that everyone else below them has a chance. And I think that's what you want to see.
Yeah. Jacob Atkins says, Oregon has talked about how talented USC is, even though they're down with many key players due to injury. Do you think Oregon is actually concerned about this game?
Yeah, I think they're concerned about this game. It's a big deal. I mean,
Trying to make the college football playoff, and they're in striking distance.
Yeah. And the recruiting aspect, they want to keep that going. They know if you want to be a power in the Pac-12, they have to keep dominating Southern California recruiting. USC is not going to stay down forever. You have to be able to strike while the iron's hot. And the iron's hot right now. Get those, great Southern California players. They got a lot of guys committed for 2020, 2021. You lose this game, and then USC hires if USC hires another coach or something, yeah, momentum's going to shift. Right now, recruiting for USC is as low as I've ever seen. They're number 64 in the country when we're going to switch into November. They haven't had a crystal ball pick, which is the 24/7 sports. Like the experts will go out and predict that a prospect is going to pick USC. They haven't had a prospect crystal ball go towards USC since August 20th. It's been 10 weeks since that happened. They are number 10 in the Pac-12 in recruiting. So it's a big deal for Oregon. You want to stomp on USC when they're down and try to get every recruit you can from Southern California to leave home, to do that Cali flock thing and go up north. It's a big deal for Oregon.
Mm-hmm. Christian on YouTube says, do you think recruiting is a concern for the president/selection committee? If so, wouldn't it be wiser to get a new AD/coach before the early signing period? And I think that's the big question is what is the concern for the president and those choosing the AD and or maybe a new head coach? Because, Ryan, you've always talked about, is football really a priority for the upper echelon of USC?
Yeah, no, I think it's a big deal. You have to pay attention to that. I don't think you need to hire a coach only because that there's December 18th is the early signing period, but you have to be conscious of that. Like before, you could wait, you could hire someone in late December or early January or the middle of January and be able to have a few weeks before signing period, before early February. Well, that's not the case anymore. You have to move now and you have to accelerate the timeline. So whatever they want to do, that's what you have to move things up. I don't think you're going to hire a coach only because you don't want a recruiting class to be screwed up, but that's going to be a big deal. That the recruiting class wasn't great last year. Now they got some guys coming in that are contributing. They're looking good. But this is, like I said, historically the worst class we've ever seen right now. And I think it's going to get better. Either USC wins games and Clay Helton gets, the vote of confidence, whoever comes in, and then direction they hire somebody else, and then you get a bunch of recruits. I think recruiting's going to get better, but they're in this limbo purgatory right now that until it's either, yes, it's going to be Clay Helton, or it's definitely not, that's when I think recruiting will step up.
Two of the biggest things for recruits are stability. So they want to know their coach is going to be there and that whatever offense or defense they're going to be a part of, so they know that they'll be used and they feel like that's – look at a guy like Dominic Davis. I brought this up before, but – when he came in, Steve Sarkisian wanted to use him in that Washington State mold, as a slot back, a guy that could throw the ball out of the backfield. He was playing as a freshman. New offense comes in, doesn't suit him. He has not played since, basically. Yeah. So you don't want that to happen to you. You want to know who's going to be there and that it's going to fit your style, your playing style, your abilities, and the other thing is development, and they're going to develop me and make me a better player as I'm there. So those are the two biggest things to recruits. All the other stuff is important, the education, the location, all those things. But if you're a true, top 100 recruit, you think you're an NFL guy eventually. So you're looking at stability and development. Those are the two biggest things.
We got one from Kurt. I'm living in Oregon, and the fans I hear from are definitely worried about playing SC at home. So, yeah, that's a big deal.
Anthony says, has Michael Pittman talked about facing his brother? I think the real question is, has Michael Pittman talked? He, ever since the Notre Dame game, doesn't really want to talk to the media. So that's a development.
He has decided not to do scrum interviews anymore, basically. So he will talk as long as it's in a one-on-one setting. But I believe he's talked to a couple people about the matchup. I know the LA Times did a story on it, I believe. But he's kind of taking himself out of the media run. So unfortunately, because he's a team captain, an offensive guy, and he's dominating.
Yeah.
And
he's pretty good.
He's so ridiculous on special teams. It goes completely unnoticed to people, but he's in on the kickoff returns as an up man blocking. He's willing to do whatever. I asked him yesterday or 2 days ago, one of those. I don't know what day it is. I can't see the calendar. But I asked him about special teams, I said he should have a moment like sometimes the gimmick in baseball is a player will play all 9 positions in a game. I said he should have a game where he plays on every special teams. And he told me, he's like, well, I've been on every one of them except for basically the extra point, the score unit, he said.
Interesting.
So, I mean, technically he's been on the 2-point conversion. So he's been on that unit to an extent. But I was like, well, you can do that. All you got to do is punch. You got it. I was like, you can get one game where they put you on all of them because he's in on punt returns. He's one of their key punt block guys. So he's been in on field goal block and different things. Like you see 6 out there, and you're like, oh, it's all defensive guys, except for maybe Austin Jackson in the middle. You're like, oh, that's Isaac. No, that's Michael Pittman out there.
Yeah, interesting.
He's all over the place. He's a beast, and that's going to help him even more at the next level too, because they're going to look at him to do more than one thing.
Yep.
Should we wrap it up, or are we almost there?
Let's go through rapid fire very quickly.
Okay.
Jeffrey Jackson says, do you think the Pac-12 officials will allow USC to win this game? Because if USC wins, the Ducks are out of the playoffs.
I'm triggered. That's a flag on you. We didn't do anything. We do not determine the game. We just like to throw these around because it's fun. It's yellow. Why would you
TV
not
time.
Want?
They don't care who wins. They just want TV time.
Man, I love being on TV.
Yeah.
I just throw these all the time. I don't even know what happens out there. I just throw it up and see what's going on.
I don't think there's a bias. I think there's just incompetence. So sometimes it works one way, one works the other. I don't think they're smart enough. You have to be good at what you do to be able to influence the game in one direction or another. I think they're too incompetent to be able to do that.
I'm just always looking to see if any player touches hands with a fan. That's an automatic. We're throwing the flag every time, guys.
Yes.
No fun is allowed.
No fun. We actually have a live caller, so let's go to that. Thank you for waiting. Hello, you're live on television.
Ryan, it's your biggest fan, Chris from Delaware. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Chris. How are you?
Good. Nice to hear your voice. So many compliments right off the bat. Keely, me and my 2 boys, our favorite movie is The Sandlot. And for you to be dressed as Wendy Peppercorn is making my heart explode. It's amazing.
Nice.
So thank you.
Yeah, our other caller
And
didn't
Ryan,
appreciate
as
that.
a boss,
I'm sorry?
Oh, there's a lot of bores in the world and pessimistic people. You know how that goes. I want to thank you, Ryan, as a boss, as I am. I own a law firm, and I gave my people the day off because of Halloween. I think it's nice. We're also under investigation, so that's a different situation. But thank you. And Shotgun, I don't want you to worry about this egotistical writing thing. There was another writer who was a little bit of an egotist, and he turned out just fine. And his name was Ernest Hemingway. Okay, buddy? So I want you to keep your head up. Okay.
Thanks.
Try not to go the Hemingway
I'm
way.
gonna throw a flag on Keely for this one. All right.
Why? Why is this?
All right, get to the point. We gotta get out of here. Let's go.
Okay. My point is, whenever I call, I always have a question. Anybody who wouldn't have a question is stupid. What do you think about a controversy at quarterback with Slovis and when Daniel comes back? Everyone have a wonderful day, and happy Halloween to all.
Happy Halloween to you.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
QB controversy. So here's the thing. JT Daniels won't be back until the fall. So he's not even going to have the spring. So
Clay
it depends.
said that he's pushing it. He could probably stand and throw at the end of spring camp.
Let's just see what happens.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Because if he has a setback, he may not be ready to go at the beginning of the season. You never know, especially if he is pushing it.
Yeah.
You could have a setback. I talked to a recruit last night that was was supposed to have his surgery. He got injured in week 3 this year. He's a senior. He's not having his surgery till December. JT's took a little bit of time. So it just depends on when guys comes back. JT took a little bit of time before he had his surgery as well because he kept having swelling in it. So there's some. Let's let it play out and see what happens, and then we'll see if there's a quarterback controversy. I think we'll know more summer workouts with the team to see if JT's doing anything or if he's still behind schedule, ahead of schedule, where he's kind of at, and then we can address that. And you got to look at what happens with Slovis.
Yeah.
He still has 4 or 5, 6 games left where he could be injured and something could happen. You never know, or he could decide to quit football and go to Berkeley and become a hippie. Who knows? It could be anything.
That's different. Okay.
True.
It could. I mean, he's got to play well too. To finish off the season. It's not like he has 15 starts under his belt. He's just got a handful. So you got to see the rest of these games.
Yep. Herman says, what do you think about the NCAA allowing players to benefit from their image, name, and likeness?
They haven't actually allowed it. They're just taking steps toward it.
Yeah.
That should be noted because they put out this press release saying they were doing all these great things, but they haven't done anything yet.
No, they have not.
The best thing would be NCAA football back.
Yes.
The video game.
Michael says, in fairness to this conversation, isn't the media who had Helton on the hot seat? Swan gave him that stability, but the media killed it and ran Swan out.
No, 5 and 7 is what got him on the hot seat.
We didn't do that. The fans did. The fans flew a plane over the Coliseum. That wasn't the media. That was the fans.
5 and 7 and the worst recruiting class that they've had, which was number 20. They are currently number 64.
Also, the media didn't run Lynn Swan out. 2 FBI investigations helped with that as well.
Right. And, and a lot of bad decisions, but that certainly.
And a 3-2 start this season. Those.
Yeah, we're not making anything up. Like, there's plenty of
if they came out this season and went 6-0 to start the year, he wouldn't be on the hot seat.
Right.
But they lost to BYU.
Yeah, they were 3-3. That's not good enough after. Yeah.
Yep.
Not 6-0.
Alrighty, let's do predictions. How do y'all think this one's going to go on Saturday?
Let's see. So I think the spread is like 5.5 or something like that, or I don't know, something like that. I think Oregon's going to win this one by a touchdown. So I think they'll cover the spread a little bit. I probably like a 35-28 kind of thing.
Ooh.
So I think that's where this one's going to go.
I'm going to go with USC.
Nice.
31-28.
31-20. Okay.
28.
Of course, I can't see anything to tell you what actually is going to happen on the field.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, so I had this like kind of weird blind confidence in USC this whole week, and then I dove into the numbers last night, and I was like, ooh, maybe not. So I don't know where I stand right now. I think I'm gonna say
flag.
I know
for holding on to your opinion and not giving your prediction. Holding.
I'm just gonna
on the lifeguard.
I'm gonna say USC is gonna win, and I'm not gonna give a score prediction.
That's good. I mean, that's fine. What USC is gonna have to overcome is they are one of the worst teams in the country as far as turnover margin goes, and Oregon's the best or one of the best. So they're in the opposite ends of the spectrum.
And they can control the clock. They can control the game with their run game. USC, I think it all starts with stopping their run game.
Yeah. USC's not controlling the clock with the run game. USC's going to need big plays in the passing game. And, they've done it. They've proven they can do it. But that's something interesting to rely on. So we'll see. I mean, this could play out in a number of different ways. But I think it's going to be a fairly close game most of the way.
It'll be interesting for sure. I'm looking forward to it. Mr. Eccles wants you to pick Oregon shotgun because I think you're the jinx. So
I picked USC to beat Colorado. They beat Colorado. Bam.
Yeah, true.
I think we all did, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I'm terrible at predictions
but you
doesn't
said,
mean I can't still predict.
That's true. I said they wouldn't cover the spread, so that was,
Yeah.
And they did not win. They won.
Okay. Anyway, alrighty, that's gonna wrap it up. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Can I get like
today.
3 quick rapid fire?
Sure.
If the Rose Bowl is SoCal's goal, yet if not the Rose, which bowl would you like to see them in?
One that is before Christmas.
Vegas. Cheez-It.
Vegas. It's
not the
Vegas.
Holiday Bowl because I've been there too many times.
Cheez-It's too cold. Vegas.
Cheez-It.
Shaka, can we get your opinion on how this very young DB core has performed so far this season? Admirably, terrific, fantastic.
Very good.
What was the question? Sorry.
Beyond expectations.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They've been fantastic, especially with the number of guys that have been rotated in. Britton Allen came in for 10 plays in the fourth quarter and was great.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
You want that?
And if Helton, the last one, if Helton keeps his job, does he replace Clancy? I would say no. I feel like there's
probably not.
Locked together. He thinks Clancy is the best defense coordinator in the country. The same thing with John Baxter. He thinks he's the best special teams, which is why I think those 3 guys are connected. If Helton is there,
if he keeps his job, I mean, they went to the Rose Bowl or something. So, yeah, I don't think he makes a change.
Oh, and last one. Why would SoCal kids go up to Oregon? I think they pay the players. Hip hop R&B lover John says, which is a great name for hip hop lover. I think why would they go up there other than Nike gear? This whole Oregon hype the past 10 years has always been so fishy. Because they are maniacal was the word that Greg Biggins used when he described them, their staff, as recruiters. And Ryan kind of retweeted that one, but he also said it's the most he's seen a staff recruit since the Pete Carroll, heyday. So that tells you they are all out all the time. It's a group effort. When kids show up, as soon as they show up, they go up an elevator, and there's 30 people there waiting on them, cheering them on when they get there, and they make them feel special the entire weekend of the trip. I was talking to one, 707 coach says, going on an unofficial visit, it feels like an official visit. You go up there for a game, and it's all about you the entire time, except for maybe that 3 or 4 hour window when the game is going on. So I wrote a lot about this earlier in the week for the Times. So you can check it out there. I didn't get to put everything in there, but it's about how hard they're working on the recruiting trail is why they're doing so well.
Yeah, and USC has a lot of coaches that are part-time recruiters at best, and that's you're seeing the results.
Better this year.
Yeah, it's better than it was before. But
yeah, yep. Alrighty, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sorry that we're early and that we had some technical difficulties, but we'll be back on Sunday, 7 p.m. to give our takes, reactions to USC's matchup against Oregon. So be sure to catch us there. Happy Halloween. We hope you have a
happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Yes,
Chuck and I
safe.
feel like you have something ready planned.
Oh, that was a perfect throw right
well
to the camera.
Well done.
Nice.
We can do a wide shot too. Let's pretend we have a crane camera and pan out. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the show. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.